Are you ready for me to call the order?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to call the October 25th Environmental Commission meeting to order.
Okay, and I'll have our statement of compliance. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, this is a regularly scheduled meeting pursuant to the annual meeting notice as published in the September 23rd, 2021 issue of the Hunterdon County Democrat, or excuse me, October 23rd. A copy of the agenda was forwarded to the Hunterdon County Democrat, filed in the Township Clerk's office, and posted on the bulletin board. So we'll take a attendance. Mark Castellano.
Here.
Jim Edwards.
He's connecting to audio.
Okay, so Jim is here.
Still on mute.
Yep, he's still on mute.
He
Erica.
has to tell us.
Here,
Erica is here. We'll come back to Jim. Marnie Stetson. Krista Parsons. Allison Kapchak. And JD Grun. Do we have JD? JD Grun is not here. Jim, are you here with us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, good.
And you don't need me for attendance, Allison.
Okay. I just calling you because I see you. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is we have the review of the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to open up and review the agenda? They have it in front of them or on the share drive?
Yes.
And I'd like to add to the ongoing business an update on Sustainable Jersey.
Okay, so we're going to add under ongoing business an update to Sustainable Jersey, which we will discuss then. Anybody else have any additions? No other?
No addition.
What's that? So we're all good. So we have a swearing in of members, and this is administrative only. So what you do is that for those of you who are not here, under the share drive, there is the oath of office document. If you could sign that and scan it to me, and then I will attest to it, and then we will have it on file. So we don't have to do an official swearing in. I'm right on that, right, Krista? That's okay? Okay, perfect. So can everybody see that? Everybody has their copy. We have ours here.
yeah, Allison, I think I sent mine to you. Did
Send
you
yours
get
already,
it?
Erica. And then we are supposed to have a special discussion. She's supposed to be joining us at 7:30. It was Rose Lenoff. I'm going to reach out. She has the Zoom information, so she knows to call in, but I don't see her as of yet. You want to come back to her and see if she calls in?
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you want to just text her to see if she's planning to?
Yeah,
And we
because
can-
she's.
We can move ahead and then.
I'm going to reach out to Rose and see if she's having any trouble calling in because she has a link and everything. So I'm just going to reach out to her and see if she can make it. Maybe she's just running late. And then we can circle back to her. So, but she is basically, just a heads up, she is from the Business Development Manager for Flow, which is an electrical vehicle charging station. It's a grant opportunity. We would get a significant amount covered under certain grants with the state of New Jersey to have electrical vehicle charging stations set up around the townships. So had some notes with regards to it on here.
Well, just in case she.
Like that. So
if she
we'll wait
shows
and
up.
see if she calls in. So hopefully she does because it was really interesting, but I'll reach out to her. So we'll just move forward.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the September minutes?
Motion to approve the September minutes.
So moved.
Second,
So moved.
So Mark moved and
Mark moves. So
Jim seconded.
Dan seconded. So a motion approved to the.
Mark is just a liaison.
That's right, can't vote.
Oh,
So you,
So-
I can move. So approved.
so you move and then Jim seconds.
Jim seconds. Okay.
yeah, I second, yep.
Okay. So the
Okay,
September.
can I
minutes.
have a motion to open to the public?
Do I hear a motion to
Um,
open to the public?
You can
Yep,
move-
motion to open to the public.
Oh, you can move to.
Move to open to the public.
Second,
Second.
I second it.
All in favor?
All in
Aye.
favor? Yes.
Aye. So do we have anyone that wants to speak from the public? Okay, hearing no one from the public wanting to speak, motion to close to the public?
Okay, motion to close to the public.
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we'll go to unfinished business. And I think the first is you, Allison, right? Clean communities and adopt a spot.
Yes, so I had some information with regards to Adopt a Spot that I just wanted to go over. We have a couple really great things coming down with the Adopt a Spot. First thing that I wanted to do was set up, after speaking with Tracy Carluccio, I wanted to have the environmental committee sponsor, or a green team sponsor, a cleanup of Amwell Lake. I spoke with Tracy Carluccio about it, and she thinks it's a fantastic idea since it is a Cat 1 water body and state park. We could have members of Fish and Game speak, provide the educational initiative arm of it, or someone from DEP, and we could sponsor it. We thought that it would be best to do for quarterly. So I was proposing March, June, September, and January. I wanted to see how everybody felt about that. Is that too much? Is that too little? From a volunteer standpoint.
Wait, are you proposing all those dates or one of those dates?
We could certainly sponsor one of those dates and get other people to sponsor, like Raritan Headwaters or so on and so forth. But I would like to, personally, it'd be nice if the environmental committee could sponsor all of the dates. But I'm sure there are other Girl Scout troops that might be interested or so on. So we can look into that, but I just think it would be really neat if we could do all 4 of those dates. I spoke with a few residents that live on Linvale who fish and they utilize it and they hike to the back of houses, for instance. They
And
go
what
back
does
there.
it mean to sponsor it?
We would sponsor the cleanups. So
Right, what's that
basically,
mean?
so what I was a little confused about initially before learning about the grant process is that with clean communities, if you sponsor the cleanup, you reap the benefit. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we would be awarded any leftover money grants of that. So please correct me if I'm wrong on that or anything. I cleared that with recycling committee and
No,
Rosemary.
but I mean, like, to do the cleanup, like, what is that? To
We would
sponsor the
be,
cleanup?
we would sponsor it and we would garner the volunteers. So if we,
But what does the cleanup mean?
the cleanup means picking up any trash basically around Amwell Lake. So it's litter within the lake and around the sides of it, so around the land. So that's clean communities, and we would be responsible for that. I think on a quarterly basis would be good. If you go back there, it's really choked up right now. So I don't know how much we can do from a water cleanup standpoint, but we can certainly do a litter pickup standpoint. There's so many other options that we have with maybe having Raritan Headwaters come out, provide some education about, you know, fixing up the pond, so the lake status there, which would be really nice. But when we could work that out over the
Yeah, but
4
wouldn't you think
times.
that would be better for them to come out first to kind of give a primer? So
That would be
the
great.
volunteers don't overstep their boundaries, especially with, you know, the way the rules are with the DEP about touching lakes and waters, rivers and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that probably would be a good idea to have, or to, like Tracy Carluccio said, to have a member of DEP come out with us on that first time. She thought that was a really good idea, and we were talking about also Fish and Game, because there's a lot of people go back there and they fish. So perhaps for our introductory cleanup in March, we can get a member of DEP out there.
Well, who's the primary? Is it DEP or Fish and Game?
I think it's DEP because
I would
it's
do
Cat 1.
DEP.
Yeah, I would do
Well,
DEP on that. So,
I would say, take whoever's primarily responsible.
Yeah.
I would
and
get
they would
them.
provide the educational initiative
Right,
to it. And they would
because-
walk with us and say, all right, do this, do that. Another thing is that, so we have those 4 dates. Does everybody feel okay with those 4 dates? Is that too much? Or, well, at least to try to aim for,
So it would mean like on March 22nd, whoever from the committee was available would go clean up the lake. And any
Yes.
friends we could bring with us.
and yes, any friends that we can bring with us as long.
Yeah, and I'd like to speak in, I go on this bird watcher event that Juanita Hummel runs a couple of times a year. And one of the prime spots we bird watch is Amwell Lake. So we could actually bring her in, because I'm sure she would be motivated to help clean it up because it makes it more bird friendly.
So what was that name again that you said? I'm sorry.
Juanita Hummel,
Yes. I know that.
she's the wife of Blaine Hummel, who's
Yep.
road cleanup files we've been seeking.
Yes.
She leads a bird walk. She's a president or something of the Washington Crossing Audubon Society, and she does a couple of bird walks, and Amwell Lake is always one of our spots that we do.
Okay, all right, so that would be good, all right,
And
so,
she could probably bring in some because actually the her birding events are well attended.
okay. Perfect, I know I've seen her name before, so she could be one person to consider reaching out to, definitely.
Yeah, I can do an introduction, tomorrow if you'd like.
Okay, perfect, like send an email and CC, so we can
Yeah.
get, and I can have a,
Does the recycling committee also do clean communities cleanup or no?
I don't think so necessarily. We have our cleanup day that we sponsor.
But but that's a clean communities thing, right?
I'm sorry, they do a cleanup day. They do the roadside cleanup.
yes, and that's covered under Clean Communities.
Yes,
And this doesn't like interfere with that in any
I
way.
told you, Allison.
I did it, my bad, I'm really sorry.
Hold on. Sorry.
All right, now that,
What, Chris, I didn't hear you.
Oh, no, the state trooper was there.
Oh, I think I did that too. You weren't the only one.
oh gosh. Just to stop it for really quick.
Wait, I just didn't hear the answer.
So the recycling committee does a roadside cleanup annually.
But
Yeah.
it's not, this wouldn't wouldn't impact
Conflict with
that.
it?
It wouldn't conflict.
No, because Allison has touched base with the recycling committee. So this would be in addition to
Okay,
that.
all right. I just wanted to make sure we weren't.
No, you're not.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's, just to circle back, we do have Rose, so do you want me to admit her now and she can speak? Oh, we have her, I'll admit her in. Hi, Rose, are you there? Hi, Rose, you can unmute yourself, actually. Hello,
Hi, good
how are
evening.
you?
Good. How is everybody doing tonight?
Everybody's doing great, thank you. I just gave everybody just a refresher as the grant process and what you're offering, and I gave them everybody just like kind of notes of what we spoke about on Friday, so we're looking forward to learning more about.
Very good.
the Eagles.
Okay, wonderful. So I guess to start, I'm going to give a brief background on Flow, who we are in the industry, where we stand, and then we could talk a little bit about the different rebate programs and availability of funding that's available for municipalities to tap into. But as a quick background on Flow and our product line, we were founded in 2009 in Quebec. Our first stations were deployed and in the ground by 2011, and we now have well over 55,000 charging stations deployed across North America. We are a Canadian-based company, but we do have 7 regional offices in the United States. I'm located in one of the offices in Brooklyn, and we are also in the process of establishing a manufacturing plant in the US. We're going to be announcing that in probably the next 2 months or so, where the location is. And as a company, our mission is simple. It's really to provide the best charging experience to our customers, customers being municipalities, EV drivers, utilities, really anybody that touches the charging station. And as a company, we look to provide, like I said, the best charging experience to our customers. And we like to say that we're one throat to choke, right? We are both the designer and manufacturer of the electric vehicle hardware, but we're also the network operator, meaning anything relating to customer service or support. We provide this end-to-end solution for our customers. Part of being a vertically integrated company means that we are able to support the deployment of stations and really support the entire process from end to end. So determining locations for charging stations, determining how many stations to deploy at a spot, what type of stations should be installed, providing uptime metrics, reporting information, processing, billing, customer service. We offer a 24/7 customer network, a customer support service network. that's available for EV drivers. So there's a number listed on the station that end users can call. And when they call us up, we'll know exactly where they are because there's a unique identifier on the station and we can help service them. But we're also monitoring the charging stations that are in the field 24/7. The other big benefit that comes with being a vertically integrated company is that we know all of the different points that are within our charging station, and it provides us a much deeper knowledge of what's going on the ground. So typically we know if there's a problem with one of our stations before our site host does, and we have a 99% accuracy rating, which means that if we do have to send out a tech, we can send them out with the part in hand that they need to service the station. Most of the time, it doesn't require sending a tech out to the site. We can send a firmware update or a software update. But what this means is that there's no self-diagnosis on site. We can solve these issues remotely. Before I close off, I'll say a few last things, and that's we design a number of types of charging stations given the type of location that we're deploying in, whether that's on street, like what we're doing in New York City. We are the company behind New York City's curbside deployment. We're deploying in all 5 boroughs. We provide DC fast charging, which is rapid emitting stations for locations on highway corridors and thoroughfares. We provide fleet solutions for utilities, for municipalities, and each one of these use cases has a different type of charging station that we've designed because not all charging experiences are created equally. But our focus is no matter if we're installing a station as a single family home or a multi-residential building, dependability and creating overall value for the end user is what we focus on. So all of our charging stations across our whole lineup have a 7 to 10 year lifetime expectancy. We've got charging stations that we installed in 2011 that are still up and running in Montreal. And really what I want to drive home, I've said this before, but our focus really is uptime and reliability, because if you have a charging station that you deploy, there's nothing worse than having a charging station that doesn't work, that somebody drives up to, because charging stations are mission critical assets. So really making sure that the stations are up and running and available for the public is what our biggest focus as a company. With that said, we're very strategic in where we deploy. And the reason for this, part of the reason for this conversation is because we're doing quite a bit of work throughout the state of New Jersey and in Pennsylvania and in the Philadelphia area. And we see the borough as an opportunity to help connect these networks. So it's a way to really drive home that EVs are, there's going to be over 300 different makes and models of EVs over the next few years. And people in communities, whether that's a big community or a small community, should know that they have charging infrastructure available to them. And creating this network really helps secure that feeling that, yeah, we might still be in the early adoption phase, but there's infrastructure available for people to utilize. So that's very high level on flow. Before I jump into rebates, and Grant, I'm more than happy to answer any questions about us and what we do.
Rose, are you hired by a town?
That's a great question. Are we hired by a town? We sell a product to a town and cities and municipalities. I specifically lead the sales of governmental and smart city locations. So I work exclusively with municipalities. We're not necessarily hired by the town in the sense of like, we're not a consulting firm that's offering that level of service. We offer consulting services just as a part of what we offer, because there's a lot of education that comes into EV deployment. But I would say we're more of more selling a product.
Right, but you get paid by a town, right?
That's correct. So our business model is to sell the charging stations, and we have a yearly software fee for each one of the stations. That's $150 per year per port. And that's the way that we make our money.
I'm sorry, I missed, so you sell the charging station and then you keep it up like by an annual fee? The
Yeah.
software and the upkeep, that stuff. Is that,
That's correct.
okay.
And Rose, who's your competitors in the market?
Great question. So, our biggest competitor in the market is also one of our largest partners. So it's quite interesting in that sense. But if you've ever heard of the company ChargePoint, they are a publicly traded company. They own the majority of the market share in the United States, where we own the majority of the market share in Canada. We have 80% market share in Canada, and they have about 60 to 70% in the US. But we're also partners with them. So in 2015, we established what's known as an interoperability roaming agreement, which means that if you have a ChargePoint app or a ChargePoint RFID card, you can take that app or RFID card and use it on a Flow station and vice versa. So if you already have stations deployed in a location, you don't need to download multiple apps or have multiple cards to pay for it. It can all be done under the same network.
And so do consumers also pay when they charge?
That's correct.
Okay.
And so it's that charge that offers an ongoing revenue stream for municipalities. So if you guys are charged, I'm just going to make up numbers. Let's say you are charged 13 cents per kWh. You could charge 20 cents per kWh. Now in the state of New Jersey, you cannot charge per kWh. The BPU doesn't allow for it, but you could charge maybe $1 an hour or 75 cents an hour. And we can help determine that math to figure out how you all can still make a profit off of revenue generated from the stations.
So they would pay for the electricity and then, but there would be a markup that would go to the township.
Correct.
Rose, did you want to just touch on the types of grants that would cover this? Like the
Yes.
PSDG grant that we talked about, pays to plug, and especially the BPU grant that's coming up in December?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that
So
would qualify for
So
that.
the state is ripe for EV adoption. It's I think it's low-hanging fruit for Governor Murphy to help establish programs and get them pushed out because he has such lofty environmental goals to help reduce carbon emissions, and transportation in the state is the highest, if not one of the highest causes of greenhouse gas emissions. So the BPU, actually, I'll start with PSE&G first. PSE&G is offering a Make Ready program that will, per location, their site host can receive up to $30,000 with a possible additional $10,000 to lay the conduits, the wiring, and get a site ready for EV charging. The infrastructure side of EV deployment is by far the most costly part of a project. It's about 80% of all of the CapEx goes towards the install costs. So it's a great program if there's locations in mind for stations, because there's so much money that the utility is willing to pay for that. So the process is not very complicated. It requires a site visit from an electrician. So if you have somebody from DPW or a preferred electrician, send them out to a site. If you don't have a site identified, Flo can help identify that. But Allison and I spoke about a few sites, but we'll get to that later. And with that quote, you apply for the PSE&G program. They let you know if you've been approved or not. They're approving everybody. And then it's a rebate program. So you pay for all of the installation and then you get that money back. So that's from the utility. The BPU is also offering a program right now that I believe it's either $3,000 or $4,000. I need to double check. They're per port. They're looking to bring tourism to the state and making sure tourism stays in the state. And bringing people from either Pennsylvania or New York or just other areas of New Jersey to popular sites within municipalities. So the idea is really, if there are locations that you have in mind that could be good tourist sites, the BPU wants you to apply for the grant. It's like a 4 or 5 page document. It's not very long. Quite frankly, it's something that Flo can help with. We just need to know the location. We can author. We can't submit for you, but we can help lead the formatting of the grant and making sure that of course, it would need to be submitted by the township, so it would need to be approved by the township, but we can certainly help with that along with
Just
the
one quick
PSC.
question though, for the BPU grant, will we, for instance, we're a thoroughfare towards New Hope and Lambertville, which are big tourist destinations. Would we then qualify for that if we were just kind of on that thoroughfare and not necessarily New Hope and Lambertville? I mean,
That's a great question. And the rules of the grant are quite open. And so it doesn't hurt. It's a fairly quick document. It'll take 45 minutes to fill out. It doesn't hurt because that's money in hand. And I think the BPU has a few $1 million that they're giving out. So you'd have a good chance of winning.
that's the one thing is that like we discussed on Friday is that we are a thoroughfare for either a lot of travelers, a lot of truck traffic. So I don't know if that would necessarily qualify for EV, but there are trucks, I guess, now are electrical vehicles, but and we are traveling from, we can disregard that. We are a main thoroughfare for travelers to from Philadelphia and New York. So
What is the cost of putting in an EV station?
So the cost of putting in the station really differs from location to location. It could be as little as $2,000, as much as $30,000. It's really difficult to say without conducting a site visit and without knowing the available power that's existing there. But the
That's
PSC,
what determines it, how close and how much power?
those are two big factors. So if you're running a line that's 100 feet, and so you have 100 feet of conduit, you have to trench 100 feet. It gets very expensive. If you have a building with power that you can tap into, like excess power, that's great because then the line that you're running is much shorter. So it really is difficult to say without evaluating the site.
And let's just pretend it's 15,000. A grant would cover how much of it?
100% then of the
Oh,
infrastructure.
PSE&G grant?
Yes. So if the grant, if the installation costs were $50,000, then the PS grant would only cover, there would be a delta of 20 grand that would need to come out of pocket. But if it's below that amount, the grant would cover it in full.
Oh, so anything up to 20,000?
Anything up to $30,000. And then there's a caveat that they'll actually add an additional $10,000. So it's really like anything below $40,000.
Oh.
And that's per site.
Correct.
We have 10 charging stations, it'd be 30 or 40K per site for this grant that they would give us.
That's correct. Now, I believe they have a max of 4 charging stations per site, but you could apply for 10 sites, you could apply for 20 sites, wouldn't matter.
Okay.
That's a rebate program, so we'd have to pay up front and then get reimbursed.
Correct.
And is there a timeline on the grant?
It's first come, first serve, and PSE&G is a fairly large service territory, but a lot of people are applying to it. So it's never going to be cheaper than it is right now to install charging stations. I'm working in, my territory is anything east of Chicago, but I work heavily in New York as well because that's where I live. And if you're familiar, there's an organization called NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research Authority. They had a grant for $4,000 per plug to offset hardware, software, and install costs, along with a utility program. and nobody applied for the NYSERDA rebate until they only had $500,000 left. And then immediately all of the money was gone in like 2 days. So people get nervous and then they apply and then the money's gone, and NYSERDA is not putting that money back from what we can tell. So I think there's really, if this is something that you're considering or interested in, I highly suggest, Flo can help identify locations, or if you have locations in mind, we should coordinate maybe offline about that, and send out somebody to the site to spec the project so that you can understand what the costs might be out of pocket, because right now it's very hypothetical.
Right. Okay. Were there any other questions?
I'll add one last point and I'll open up to questions if anybody has. Great. If not, that's all right too. And that is, we are on the New Jersey START list, and we are also partners with a number of electrical contractors that are on the ESCNJ co-op. So the New Jersey Educational Co-op, which makes procurement quite easy because those vendors have already been approved. And if it's a turnkey program where the installer is furnishing and installing, then you don't have to go out to bid or RFP because it's already been pre-approved by the state. We're also on a national co-op list called Sourcewell. I don't know if you all use that, but it's again just another way to not have to go through RFP, which is oftentimes very convenient.
Okay, I think that's. Does anybody else have any other questions, or? I think we are good.
Okay, well, I greatly appreciate the time. I hope everybody gets home safe tonight, unless you're already home. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, Allison, you've got my contact information. You can share it with the group and we'll take it
Yeah,
from there.
I'll definitely be in touch with you with any additional information that we need, but it's definitely a really beneficial grant, so we're definitely looking into it.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody. Have a
Rose.
good night.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Rose.
Thanks, Rose.
Yeah, thank you.
Mark, isn't that really an issue for the township?
Yes.
Yeah.
Council, the committee to-
Hey, Krista,
Sort of down, sort of.
Yeah.
But we're out
Yeah.
for it and stuff, so.
I just got a pop-up that said that the meeting was ending and that the meeting time is ending in 5 minutes, but I set it for like 2 hours.
Yeah, I don't know why you're getting that, so
Yeah.
we'll have to look at your settings.
Yeah, so we might have to hang up and call back in. How do you want to just do that right now?
My suggestion would be to ignore it and see if it
Ignore it and see
actually.
it just goes on,
So we could show.
because I set it for a good hour and a half. So when I did it, because I remember doing that, but I just got a pop-up for it. So just a
I'm
heads up.
not sure why it's doing that.
Yeah, but if anybody gets booted out in the next couple of minutes, just call right back into the same contact with the same sign in East Amwell, and then we'll just continue it from there. So let's just see what happens. But if we want to head, do we want to circle back to the clean communities, or just?
Well, just to finish that conversation, I mean, is there anything that we as a commission need to do? I mean, it seems like.
We could probably present this. I mean, it's something that you can bring forward.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, and then we can pursue it. Problems is that it's gonna be tough. Yeah, we need commitment this side of 2022.
Right,
yeah.
That's the only thing. If it's really that rapid fire, especially if we have to pay out
Before 2023, right?
or for 2022, because it's, you don't really know which money's left in the budget
Right.
kind of stuff. And right, usually November 1st, we could start to move stuff around, right? Then
The
we're-
last 2 months and the first 3 months.
Right, so that's where we start to reallocate where accounts are over and under and try to balance it out. But unless we really know where we're going to be, especially another year of COVID, that kind of stuff. So it's difficult to pay up front, that kind of stuff. I mean, I think, look, this is a heck of a lot better than what was presented previously. I mean, people were talking about 50K, and from the township perspective, that's a no mas. That's
Right,
not
yeah, that's a
happening.
lot.
And again, you can say, well, the 50K per spot, I mean, if nobody's coming by, we're out 50K.
Right.
So this makes it a little more reasonable.
And
to,
also, does it, I mean, the town did think about this, but have they thought about it?
somebody, I don't think we put a lot of thought into it because the numbers were just.
So expensive.
Oh, it made your eyes water, that kind of stuff. And it was just like, it'd be nice to have, but it's really something we needed at 50,000.
Right.
And I think it was just sort of, no, it's not, you know, if we had tons of cash left over, it could possibly be something like that. I mean, you know, for me, I think that's, you know, something like Old York or Unionville Winery kind of thing, where people come in
Right.
and that kind of stuff. So that might be,
That might actually- I didn't
well,
think
and
about
again,
it.
it wraps into sort of tourism
Yeah,
thing and,
that's the tourism.
you know, that
That's a
kind
big
of
key
stuff.
part.
And, you know, this, I have people I know in Flemington that their office built, so people come to visit.
And they're only there, it's 20
Charging
minutes.
Wawa's got 20 Tesla stations up, charging stations in the back.
We could probably have one at the post office library, you could keep it there, or.
So do you think it would make sense to have Rose present at a
Yeah,
town?
good. I mean, it's just, I mean, I think a preliminary probably from here, just kind of, you know, the general outline of what grants available or whatever. And then, you know, it'll be discussed, and then if we need to bring her in.
So something from the commission
Yeah.
saying,
Yeah, I think just a brief kind of outline, that kind of stuff, the general parameters. And there are grants, different kind of grants, who BPU's offering, PSCG's offering, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I think that just the general, because that'll be twice as much information as we had
Right,
before,
yeah.
that kind of
Right.
stuff.
and like in October, in November, or?
Yeah, because we can still get it on the agenda for October.